Hello, good afternoon. It's Taz from the Active Wellbeing Society's Big Run project. I'm here with our two lovely guests who I'm going to introduce shortly on the Heritage Walk. As you know, it's Heritage Week. Well, it's Heritage 10 days, so we've got 10 days of heritage walks and lots of great things organised as part of the Heritage Week. And Legacy WM, who I'm going to introduce you to, are doing a lovely heritage walk today at Handsworth Park. So I've decided to come along. I've also got permission to live stream the walk as well, so thank you very much Legacy WM for allowing us to live stream and get it out to you guys, the viewers at home, who can watch the video and get inspired to come out and learn more about Handsworth and the park itself and the great community and all the great work that takes place here. So I hope you don't mind me then giving you a little tour of Handsworth Park virtually, and then do come out and visit with your families. Please do share this video as well, so whether you're watching it live or whether you're going to watch it on the replay, the more it gets out, the more knowledge we have of our park, and the more viewing pleasure that people will receive. So don't forget, you can cast this onto your large TVs as well. You can stream it later. It will be saved on our Facebook page for us to all share onto our own community organisations. So enough for me, I'm going to turn the camera and introduce you to our guests. Introduce yourself first.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm one of the Heritage Officers, and I work at Legacy West Midlands, and we're based here in Handsworth, and we do heritage walks around the area.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carmi, and I also work at Legacy West Midlands. I'm a Heritage Officer too.
So what's our plan today, Rachel?
So we actually lead 4 walks around the Handsworth area. So one is Pugin in Handsworth, one is Secret Gardens, one is Lunar Links, and one is Roots, Rights and Resistance. So our Secret Gardens is the one that really looks at green spaces in Handsworth. But what we've done, although we did some research on the park as part of that, we actually focus on some secret gardens on Hampstead Road, which is over that way. So we wanted to do something different as part of Birmingham Heritage Week. So we thought, we have a lot of places that we don't really get a chance to focus on within our normal 4 walks. So this one is called Sensory Handsworth. So it's just focusing more on Handsworth Park itself, and just having a look around the park and considering some of its history and how it's used today. So yeah, it's just a chance. Birmingham Heritage Week has given us a chance to sort of have a look at a different aspect of Handsworth that we don't really spend enough time in normally.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really looking forward to the walk. Hopefully your viewers at home who are going to watch this, you're going to have some questions for us. Please put it in the comment section here, and those who are watching it later, you can put comments in the section, and after the video's over we can look back at the questions and try and answer some of those as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, please do. We do encourage the interaction. It's a virtual walk. Let's hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, all right then. So I mean, all of our walks, as I was saying to Taz earlier on, it's not like it's scripted and that we actually have the definitive story of whatever we're talking about. We really encourage it to be more of a conversation, and really sort of valuing people's own experiences and their own history. So at Legacy, what we do is we not only lead the walks, we also do volunteer training, and then as part of that we have anybody who's interested. We do an 8-week course, and they can come, they can find out more about our walks and how to actually give a good guided tour. But then we always get people who are absolutely fascinating, and they tell their own stories. Like in our most recent training, we had Sue, who's brilliant, and she was like telling us stories about actually working as an enameller, you know, in Handsworth. And through this, I actually put people's stories into as I develop my tour, because I don't know about you, Carmi, but I'm always like, I don't want to do the same tour twice, you know, just to keep it fresh for me. And so when I do a tour, you can sort of fill it full of like lots of dates, but what people are interested in is people. So they want people's stories. So, you know, I always sort of like stick in different stories when I'm sort of doing a walk around. So
That's great, because you've got the local input of the park and the area that you're in. You can relate it to that as well.
yeah,
So that's really good. I might use some of those tips. Thank you very much.
Well, I was going to say that, yeah, because we both come from a sort of tour background and heritage background, we do always use that tip. And for me, I keep a note of any kind of memorable stories. Like, for example, my dad, I was born in Handsworth, on Linwood Road, and it's really funny because we recently, Rachel met my dad, and he was talking about all the stories of him coming to Handsworth Park. He'd bring his dog at the time, Jamie, to come and play, and as he got bigger, but he'd get tired and he'd be carrying him back home, back to Linwood Road, and it's just really amazing. So when I'm walking around Handsworth Park, I feel a real connection. And then beyond that, when they were talking about where the bathing houses, where they would bathe every Friday,
yeah,
and all of this social history is really important, because actually if I didn't come on this walk, or if I didn't ask him about these questions, I wouldn't know any of it.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a really valuable thing to know, and it's valuable to know your own history as well as just the history of your area.
Yeah. Because I think this is it, that, you know, people now, because everybody's got like a shower in their house, and everybody has a shower every day. You know, like when I was growing up, we would have like a bath once a week. But I mean, you know, a few years before that, people didn't have bathing facilities. They would come here, you know, to the bathhouses to actually have a bath. You know, because that sort of, you know, that just wasn't something that you had. You had like indoor bathroom facilities. You would have, you know, basically the outside toilet. And, you know, to young people today, it's just an absolute world away, really.
Gosh, if my dad, I brought my children on this tour, I think their little minds would be completely boggled.
Yeah.
And to think that their granddad now, you know, everyone, like you said, you even got downstairs toilets these days.
Yeah.
You know, our toilet was outside.
Yeah.
So to think about, and I just don't think what we want to do is make history relevant. We want to make it relevant, and we want people, whatever age you are, whatever background you're from, to know that you could relate to it, and that's what we're hoping to do with our tours, really.
Yeah. So, saying it's all about like people's individual stories, I'd just like to sort of give a little bit of background as we go around. So we called this sort of sensory Handsworth, and so just was really inspired by Richard Hartland Vertigens, who was like designer of the park. And so what he wanted was that there was going to be sort of sights and sounds all year round, and you know, and I just love that sort of long-term view. I think now we just like, it's all about instant gratification, isn't it? You know, that you sort of like, you want something, and then so, you know, like, well, let's sort it out, and then, oh, I'm okay now, you know, immediately. But I just love the idea that, you know, during this Victorian period, and I mean longer ago than that, but I mean certainly, you know, the mid-19th century was like the time when they were, you know, sort of when the public parks were sort of coming up, and you know, and the first one was like, I think there was Derby Arboretum in like 1840, and then there was one in Birkenhead in like, you know, sort of 1847, and this Handsworth Park is 1888. So, but it's just that, you know, okay, this was, you know, this was like, you know, open space anyway. It was part of the Grove estate.
Great. Was this formerly Victoria Park?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So it was a park, or was it an open space, and it was called Victoria Park?
So it was basically, it was part of the Grove estate, So it was like in 1870, I think it was 1872, or no, maybe 1882, that the Handsworth Sanitary Board, they sort of thought they needed to have like a space, a green space, because the basically so many people had moved to Birmingham. The population of Birmingham had really increased because it was sort of like one of the main industrial cities, and the population of Handsworth had really increased, and so they wanted sort of a public park. And this was like, today we just take public parks, well, there's like in every town, every city there's a public park, but that was not something that people had really considered before the Victorian period. So this was actually part of the Grove estate, and so it was it was grassed area and there were trees. But the fact is that Vertigens, he had this plan, this planting plan, and okay, some of the this sort of the shrubbery and the the flowers, they would come up instantly, but these trees that we're looking around at, these would take like decades to grow, like that, these beautiful wide boulevards and these wonderful trees, and they were planted not just for their colour, but also for the sound that they would make. I mean, it is quite a windy day, but it's good because we're getting this lovely sound of the wind through the trees, and so initially, actually, because one of our walks is Lunar Links, and then we walk around what used to be James Watt's estate, over the Heathfield estate, which is over there, and so the sanitary board, Handsworth Sanitary Board, and remember that Handsworth was not part of Birmingham then, it was part of Staffordshire, so, and they were very proudly separate from Birmingham, so they wanted to have a green space where people could visit, and so in the I think it was 1886, they were actually sort of talking to the trustees from James Watt's Heathfield estate with a view to taking on the Heathfield estate and turning Heathfield House into a museum, and so it was going to be like James Watt's place, which was sort of up the hill. Now if you know the area, Taz, you'll know that it's quite a sharp hill up to the top there.
Runners know it.
I tell you what, I always thought that they didn't take Heathfield estate because it was a big hill, but it wasn't that. It was that there was I think that it was actually leased at that time. I think one of the Tangi family, who were a big industrial family, they actually got it at that time, so it just didn't sort of work in terms of the lease and everything. So it wasn't that it's just like a bit of a difficult hill to get up. So they started sort of looking at the Grove estate as an alternative, and that's why this place was chosen. But if you look at a map of Handsworth, it's a green lung. It was called the Green Lung of Handsworth. And so I just sort of paused here because this is like this was the sunken garden, and there's like a pedestal there, and there was originally a sculpture of a child and a lamb, and that was supposed to sort of refer to the original sort of well, there was Glebland as well, which was sort of across the other side of the railway that we'll get to, but it was supposed to refer to the original use of like the countryside of Handsworth, which it's really easy to forget now that most of Handsworth's history has been a rural history. A very short period has been when it's been like a municipal park. So
Can you say as well, Rach, was it true that it was quite fashionable at the time, in the sense where enlightened, like for well-being, to have a park, to go walking? It was a very affluent area, Handsworth was.
yeah.
So if you look at some of the earlier pictures, which you could Google, to have a look at some of the early pictures, you do see women dressed in their finest, taking strolls through this magnificent park. And I do think it was part of that, that it was fashionable at the time as well. And also, was it not true that, for example, for well-being, the medics at the time would advise them to go and get fresh air, get out of the smog, and if it wasn't to go to the sea, just for well-being. Is that true?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, because it was.
I think-
Was it, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like well-being, you know, it wouldn't have been called like well-being at the
Yeah,
time, but it was
yeah,
the same.
yeah.
It was the same idea that, you know, like we encourage people to go for a walk today. Absolutely. And what I was going to say was that Birmingham is actually the greenest city in the UK. So like over 15% of Birmingham is actually green spaces. You know, I don't know if like a lot of people know that, and certainly I think people from outside Birmingham think of it of being like a sort of a concrete jungle, but I mean, like London is less than 1% green space, and Birmingham is over 15%.
So would you say that was so in terms of parks, when they would you say it was around the 18th century when parks across, in terms of across the UK or England?
So it was basically, so I mean, so you got Matthew Bolton, you know, sort of, you know, you've got the wealthy industrialists and, you know, sort of affluent people. They've got their, you know, they've got their estates, so they're all right, you know, but it was really, you know, sort of the 19th century, that's the beginning of the public park, where, you know, it was something that, you know, it wasn't just for, you know, like the owning class. It was for everybody, and certainly like within Birmingham, you know, you've got like the civic gospel, which, you know, George Dawson, which isn't something that I know enough about in terms of Birmingham, but that was really this sort of ambition for Birmingham, that it should be, you know, that there should be, you know, everything for everybody to be able to use. It shouldn't just be a place where you live and you work. People should have like a really fulfilling life. So, you know, sort of George Dawson was sort of like, you know, key to some, you know, like, you know, library, and, you know, like the Shakespeare room, you know, that was sort of all Dawson. He did so much, and, you know, it wasn't just him, but he was very much sort of like a figurehead. So, like I say, first public park, or, you know, like, or like Derby Arboretum, but the first municipal park was 1847, and really that was sort of that kick-started all around the country. And then, you know, Handsworth, so the Grove Estate was sort of looked at, and then it was sort of 1888 that the first part of it actually opened, and that was this part where we're standing here. This is the Grove Estate, and then it was sort of added to, and so now what we've got is about 63 acres of park, and it's, you know, sort of I mean, there's different aspects to it, and I think even today, you know, like people say that there are some people who never come across the bridge. We'll walk across the bridge in a minute. So some, like you were talking about being fashionable to walk around, so there's the boating lake. So like if you were sort of, you know, walking with your, you know, your baby, you would walk around the boating lake. Whereas I would say that this side is sort of, you know, there's more, you know, sort of things like there's cricket. There was sort of like tennis courts, and then over there, just over there, there's it's been all refurbished, but over there is the Sons of Rest building, and so that was a place where sort of men, you know, I think it was after the First World War that they were coming back, and you know, and so this was a place where they could sort of spend time, and
because after the Second World War they did more refurbishments of the gates, didn't they?
okay,
Yeah, they put you know, all the iron gates at the front.
yeah,
They were put up after the Second World War.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's been constantly added to and changed, and
Yeah, and then it was sort of refurbished. I'm trying to think.
2002. No. Do you mean later?
Yeah,
on?
the Heritage Lottery.
Yeah, when with the Arts Trail.
Well, that was quite recent. The Arts Trail is quite
I'm
new.
sure there was something happening that was refurbished in about 2002 or something as well.
Okay, but they spent
Yeah.
millions of pounds on it. But I mean, so we look at like this Victorian park, but I mean, you know, it was very much, it was like the growth of these Victorian parks very much sort of related to that sort of, that feeling within the Victorian period, that confidence that there was, and you know, the it was sort of the technology to be able to sort of maintain these large parks, and also like planting. People are actually sort of going, you know, across the world and getting these, you know, these plants that there hadn't been access to before, and really sort of making a difference. I mean, you know, because of council cuts, they've cut down on a lot of the flower beds, not just in Birmingham, but you know, sort of across the country, I think.
Well, wasn't this park as well the place for all the flower shows, starting from?
Okay.
Yeah, the park actually from I think from the 19th, whenever the flowers show started, they started here, and they were always held here, and so were dog shows.
Yeah.
And different things. So it was a place where people would congregate and come from all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, we talk about Handsworth as being like a centre where people can come, you know, just in terms of like music.
Yeah.
And I mean, now, I mean, I'm sure it hasn't gone ahead this year, but there's Simmer Down Festival, you know.
Diwali festivals. I remember as a child coming here. The Saki.
The Saki is a big one that I used to come
I
in.
remember coming as a child actually, and it was really packed always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this was where Handsworth Carnival was.
Yes.
It's now in like, is it Perry Park now?
Yeah,
Or
Perry
Common.
Park. I think it is Perry Park.
Yeah, but I mean, it sort of started here. I mean, you know, so it just sort of shows like the different uses.
Yes,
Like,
definitely.
and I think it's fantastic because I came to Vasaki a few years ago, and so it's still a really, really well used space. Well, I say it's well used now, but I think there was a period when it sort of got, you know, it was quite run down.
I think that was about, I think that's maybe when it was restored in the 1960s, 1950s, 1967, I think it was. I think it became a bit more abandoned, a bit derelict. It was a place where you didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's when some of the restoration happened as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the sounds, I mean, I've never actually seen any bands playing here, but this was sort of part of the original work. This just wonderful bandstand.
Beautiful.
And this was actually sort of refurbished as part of the Heritage Lottery Fund.
I tried to print something off you. It was a picture of this exact bandstand in 1913. If you look it up, you'll see a beautiful picture, painting of the bandstand. It's 1930, and it's got some, you know, I think it's got some women pushing them, you know, prams, and you can just get this idea of exactly how it was.
Yeah.
And it's just fabulous that it's still here, really.
Absolutely.
So at the Active Wellbeing Society do Tai Chi now at this bandstand? Well, they did before COVID hit, but yeah, it's a wonderful space to do activity from still, even to this day.
And it's got so much history. You imagine, you know, how many years ago this was erected, and it would have been used for a total different reason. So what would they have done in that bandstand when what would they have?
Well, you can actually have
musicians,
you know, like a brass band playing in it, you know, but I've never seen it used for that, but I mean, it's still...
No, I mean, when it was, say, 1912, 1913, when it was put up, what do you think they would have used it for? So they just would have played the music.
Yeah, so like, you know, sort of at the weekend on like a Sunday afternoon, you know, so you could sort of like do your promenade around, you know, the park, and then, you know, sort of get to listen to the music as well as, you know, the sound of the wind in the trees.
It's amazing. The only place that I've, you know, the botanical gardens.
Yeah.
They've got a smaller one, and they always have a band there when any kind of open day or a bank holiday. and it's just absolutely gorgeous just to sit there and
I've been there and
Yeah.
enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we can recreate that in
yes,
Handsworth.
I would
Yeah.
love to.
Yeah. So, well, we might sort of just
Yeah.
walk down here and then we can
Sure.
look across at the cricket ground, which I have to say I know nothing at all about cricket. But you know,
So-
like just as far as I'm aware, it's still very well maintained. So I presume that it's still
Yes,
used.
so Handsworth Cricket Club based here. Before that, it used to be the Cavaliers. I, as a child, remember playing cricket here for my school because I went to the local school as well. Sometimes having matches here or training. So it's been used for cricket for a long, long time. And like you said, it's nice that it's maintained and it's kept that club status here as well. And people can come and enjoy, watch a match. There are benches around here that you can just sit and enjoy the cricket, so you don't have to enter into the field. You can sit outside with a nice viewpoint.
Yeah.
That gentleman over there, when we pass, I can show you the view from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have to say that this is not, when we do walk around here, this is not normally a path that I come up. So we normally just sort of come in at St Mary's, then just walk across the bridge and then come out on the Holly Road gate.
Yeah.
So I'm learning something new here.
So this sorry, just a question about the pool that's here behind you. Was this always here, or was this an addition later on?
I think that because there was natural water features, but I think that you know, they sort of dammed certain parts, you know, like to create some fish ponds. I think as part of the Grove estate, but I couldn't say for definite. But yeah, just to say that, you know, sort of Carmi and I, we aren't sort of an expert on Handsworth Park. There is the Friends of Handsworth Park, and they've got loads of information on their website, and then, you know, you could sort of contact them, and I believe that they sort of lead walks as well, so they'd probably be able to give you a more definitive answer than I could.
Yeah, we can always link to their page
Yeah.
on the comment section of this live video, so people. But it's just a lovely viewpoint
I was
from
going
here.
to say, isn't it beautiful just looking here at the different shapes of the
Mhm.
trees as well, and the colours.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely beautiful. So
Yeah.
would you say, you know, when they've every time they restore it, do they try and keep it, restore it in the nature that it would have been designed?
Well, I suppose, you know, you've got to.
I know we do, because when we're in heritage, and if we know that we would try and restore something back to its original.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a listing
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, because it's listed,
Yeah,
then, you know, you have to sort of respect original features. And if you go on to the Friends of Handsworth Park website, they've got a really nice sort of interactive feature. So you
about
know,
the trees,
Yeah,
it's
about
a
the
map. I've
trees.
seen it. Yeah, it's wonderful actually. It shows just how many trees are in the park,
yeah.
and you can do this sort of map. It's fantastic actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
So I mean, you know, just sort of looking around, you know, and I'm no tree expert, but I mean, just because there was that range of planting that was done, you know, especially at this time of year, you can see that, you know, like the trees are sort of turning their autumn colours at a different rate, and so it just gives this really, you know, visual interest. So, you know, you've got an ash tree, you've got copper beech, you know, you've got an oak over there, and I think you just sort of take it for granted until you sort of come to actually reflect on what
But
there is.
also, like the design eye of the architect.
Yeah.
He was an architect, wasn't he?
I don't know what you would
I
be called.
thought he was an
the
architect
like,
as well as a garden landscape.
Okay.
I don't know. I've got it in my head that
Yeah.
possibly wasn't.
I'm going to take it.
No,
from you.
possibly wasn't. But all I'm saying is that you can see his eye for this colour and for this, like you said, this forward insight. He wouldn't have
Yeah.
been around to see these become mature.
Yeah.
They would have been babies in the ground.
Yeah.
So to you know, to think of, I wonder what he would think walking through the part that he designed. Think actually this is what I'd want it, because it's taken hundreds of years to get to this stage.
So he's a visionary. Yeah,
Well,
his
of
vision
course,
was
yeah,
amazing,
to see
yeah?
it, yeah, because
Yeah.
look how amazing it is.
And it's
Yeah.
that sort of like that vision not for himself or his family.
No, because he
for
wouldn't
the
have been able
wider-
to enjoy that, would
And
he?
for the wider, for the wider community,
Yeah.
for the generations
To
that are
come,
to come,
yeah.
and the thinking behind it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to think about that for our future generations.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you were sort of asking about, you know, how much you have to sort of be respectful of original features. You do, but then also there's new interventions within the park. So, you know, there's the arts trail
Yeah.
that was sort of put
Yeah.
in place a few years ago. But every generation has like a different
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
You know, so and it's just, I mean, I think that's what the great thing about history. History is not a fixed thing. You know, the arts trail, you know, to us that's not history. But, you know, in like 20 years time,
It's gonna be, yeah,
you know,
of course.
people are going to sort of like be, you know, sort of telling the stories of these great visionaries who had the idea about, you know, sort of, you know, having an arts trail. And so you can, you know, you can approach the park in so many different ways. You can approach it, you know, from a historical point of view. You can approach it, you know, from a design point of view. You can, you know, you can approach it from an environmental point of view, or a fitness, because you, I mean,
Yeah,
know
fitness,
you're
yeah.
a runner.
And also, the allotments, aren't there allotments in this park? Are you
Yeah.
going to go to that? Or?
I'm not going to walk
Because
over
I was
that
going to say,
far.
if we're not, because that's an interesting thing, because, you know, in terms of the herbs and the plants that were used for medicinal value during the 18th century, that would have been taken into account when planning as well,
Yeah.
because that was a massive part of
Yeah.
a day-to-day living.
So I think that like it's the Victoria Jubilee allotments, and they're just sort of like over there, because I was sort of thinking about, like, you know, the sensory nature of the park, and you know, and I was sort of thinking, oh, you know, because you've got like the smell of, okay, we just passed through a rose, a little rose bed over there, which is not in flower now, but you've got the smells of like different things. You looks like you've got some is it lavender over there, so you've got those smells. Okay, we've got the smells, and then we've got the sights, we've talked about that, and the sounds of the, you know, sort of music from the bandstand, or, you know, the sort of sounds of nature. But then I was thinking, what am I going to talk about for like taste? And it is like, I was sort of thinking about like the allotments. And again, this was like, I think it, like I say, I think they were sort of set up about 2010. So it is, you know, sort of different people, you know, having different ideas about, you know, sort of how they can use like the land and the green spaces. And I think it's just amazing. And, you know, through lockdown, lots of people have, you know, just become more connected to the land and more interested in, like, you know, where does our food come from, and can I grow some?
The growing, naturally growing at home, growing
Yeah.
yourself,
That's it.
connecting to green spaces. It's been absolutely brilliant to see this. I know it's COVID that's brought it, but it's a shame that it's COVID that brought this.
Sometimes,
but it's a positive that's come out of all this.
Sometimes out of a negative situation comes something positive, and I actually think, if anything, people are wanting to spend more time doing the things like these, walking through the park with their families, enjoying fresh produce, actually the ease of growing your own herbs in your garden. I know you've started to grow, so I've tried to grow some habanero chilies and different things, and they are growing fantastic. But what I was going to say was, like, we actually, where we're based is at Soho House, and Soho House, so at the time, that's an 18th century house. Now, if you look at the beds there, most houses of that time would have a bay tree, not just because it was decorative, because of the fact that they would use it for their foods. Easy to grow, very hardy. Things like sage, that would have probably been grown here, would you say?
Well, you know,
They probably would have had the sage, they would have had the rosemary, they would have had all the basic herbs that we have at home. I was just saying that it's just sort of, we've done a roundabout turn, and we've gone back to what would have been happening during the 18th century. People would have been, oh, I'll just go into my garden and I'll get some of the herbs. Why go to the shop when you could grow it? And so I've taken that philosophy, and I think it's wonderful because, you know.
And it's interesting actually, because we did a summer school over the summer holidays, and so part of it was we had to do sports every day, and then we did some arts and crafts every day, and then we did stuff about sort of staying healthy and COVID and healthy eating. And I think, you know, sort of maybe I take it for granted because, you know, that I know stuff about food, and I prepare food and I talk to my children about food. But I was really struck at how children didn't know stuff about food, that, you know, sort of, so having just conversations about, you know, just dairy products, or you know, or sort of, or trying to identify pictures of different foods. And I think, you know, sort of just because we have, you know, particularly in the city, just become sort of more about, oh, you just go and you buy things from the shop without, you know, really thinking, well, could I actually sort of grow this?
Well, like you said, Rach, earlier, it's an instant society that we live in.
Yeah.
We want it and we want it now. If
Yeah.
I can't get it, I'm just going to go to the shop and get it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's somewhere that's going to be open all night, all day,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what it is. It's that instant society that can't wait
Yeah.
for that to grow.
Yeah.
Like maybe we've come to an age that we're happy and to be patient, to think, well, actually we'll wait for it to grow and to watch it. And there's nothing more satisfying than watching something grow and then being able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we taught that to the children.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not now, but in the future. You
Yeah,
watch.
absolutely.
they'll be-
Should we go and have a look at the cricket pitch? Because I mean, you're the expert here about
Yeah.
the cricket. I'm going to be guided by you on the cricket pitch.
So yeah, cricket is a part of English life, and being a child, I had cricketing heroes. I had heroes that, well, like Ian Botham, and then I had heroes like we had Kapil Dev and Imran Khan. So we had heroes that we could relate to. Sachin came later on, but I'm talking about, I'm showing my age. Yeah, Brian Lara. Brian Lara was during my time. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we had some people that we could kind of see as our role models and heroes as a child, and cricket was a really good kind of sport because the whole family could get involved, women, children, everyone. And I remember watching and enjoying cricket during school days, and then later on in my college days as well. So any form of sport or physical activity is really important for your well-being as well. So if you can have a look at this lovely view of the cricket pitch.
Taz, can I just say as well, do you think it was, you know, when I think about it, we grew up watching football, but football wasn't that important, but cricket was important. I don't know if it's because we had a national team, as in, when I say national team, for my parents to associate with something that they could support at the time. They did support the English team, but I never forget England playing India v Pakistan, and that excitement.
Yes, that buzz.
Yeah, I'll never forget as a child. Everyone went crazy with it all, no matter who it was in the household.
So the South Asians team brought that bit of a culture and flair, and also a bit of there was like competitiveness. And it was quite good banter at the time as well, and it was fun. So your neighbours would be like pitched against each other because it was India, Pakistan, and it was really good. But what at the end of the day, our future generation, they see themselves as supporting England. So because we had that connection with our parents, and we respected their values and views, we would follow what our parents would be doing naturally, and the younger generation now would be supporting Man United, Liverpool,
and
football,
so
and England cricket,
should.
and so that's how they see themselves.
I've got a mean bowl for me because
Really?
my brother
I
used
never knew that about you. How long have I known you? And I
My
didn't know
brother
that.
used to have me stood out because he was in the cricket team, and I'd have to bowl at him. We haven't got any brothers. There's me and my sister, and she said no. So I'd always be bowling at him and be like, "No, keep it straight, keep it like this." So Anil Kumbale.
Oh yeah.
Or you know, the different ones.
The googlies.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. It's
Wow.
fantastic. This is. I don't think
I've
Oh,
never-
yeah.
I've
Have you?
never, like,
I've not
I've
been
never
to
seen it.
another park that's got a lovely pitch like this. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's maintaining a public park as well. I mean, we go to Perry Hall playing fields and there's pitches there, but they're not as well maintained and looked after as this is.
Yeah.
So can you hire it, or is it just for the actual?
So this is just for the club. So the
Yeah.
club use it. But I know that on certain days, you know, you used to have West Indies team arriving and playing charity matches here with Richards.
Oh, no way,
And
really?
as a child, I used to be brought here by my uncles who love cricket.
Yeah.
And just imagine your hero is there on the pitch. You can visually see people like Viv
That
Richards
is
on there.
absolutely amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it? So a lot of history on cricket here as well. I'm sure you can delve deeper into who's played here and
Yeah.
who's been here. So
Yeah.
maybe use that in one of your
Yeah,
walks
very-
as well.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah, because it's just a different facet, isn't it? A different thing that people for me, you know, you might not think this, but I do like cricket. I love cricket.
No, I didn't know.
No, but it's
Didn't know.
yeah, exactly. But and it is, yeah. So
But you know, I just think because you know the only other Birmingham Park, and this is more to do with my ignorance than what there actually is on offer. Because I used to work at Aston Hall, so I know that
Yes,
there's
a
a
cricket pitch there. Yes.
pitch there. But then this is lovely
Yeah,
because
really
it's
is
almost like
lovely.
a sort of a natural like amphitheatre that you know you can.
it's just
Like
so
you said,
lovely.
you can sit anywhere along here. You see the benches along
Yeah.
here. Anywhere, any position, you'll have a great view of the cricket.
And there just isn't that at Aston Park. There is the pitch, but there's not really.
There's
sort
not
of
that
places-
seating. There's
Yeah.
not that, you know, it wasn't designed. This looks like it was designed in a way
Yeah.
to kind of enhance the cricket and the sports aspect of the
So
park.
when would the cricket pitch have been designed along with the park back in 18?
19th century. So it
The,
would
what the
be
cricket
like.
pitch would have been.
Yeah, I think it was all sort of part of it. So
So
that
when
would
it-
have been like late 19th century, 1888. Like I say,
Yeah,
the first
and
bit
so-
opened.
Wow, that's so amazing, isn't it?
So I mean, because like I say, I've never walked around here before,
No.
but I mean, we've got time. So I mean, should we walk around and see?
Yeah, I've came here the other day myself for a walk, and I noticed there's a new art piece here as well.
Yeah.
So have you seen that art
I've-
piece?
I haven't seen the one over there.
Yeah, that's the one we're referring to.
Yeah.
It's quite
It's
new.
actually, are you okay for time? Because I just realised it's nearly
time
3
is it?
o'clock because we've just been
Yeah,
chatting.
we've just been chatting. We've not even looked at the time, but I'm okay if you guys are okay
Yeah,
to carry
I'm
on.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah. But,
Conkers, if you see a conker, pick it up.
Oh,
I've got to collect
To,
some for
talking
my
about
children.
conkers, this spot right here brings back memories of my childhood, because the school gates, we used to come from the school there, Handsworth School, come in through this gate, find a conker, and then used to have our conker matches.
yeah.
And we used to have all kinds of tricks like put it in the freezer, put it in
Yeah.
vinegar,
Yeah,
all
vinegar,
these things,
baking it,
baking it.
You wouldn't even
Yeah.
be allowed to play with a conker these days. So can you
Because I
imagine
know
taking
that
one to
it's
school?
always like in the papers about they bang conkers.
I remember my
I
dad
don't
used
know
to
if
get
that's even true.
Well, I remember my dad used to get a really sharp, thin screwdriver.
Yeah,
Put a hole in it, and then we'd get old shoelaces.
that's
and
right.
everything.
That's
Did you?
that's
Yeah.
exactly the
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly the memories that I have, and it's right from this spot here that I found the best ones as well.
I've got one. I found one earlier.
Did
I
you?
need to find, 'cause I've got two. I can't
But
give
then,
one
like,
and not have the other one.
I know, like the devastation of like if your conker went on the floor and then you know the person you were playing with would stamp on it.
Oh.
Just you know, it's just like absolutely
Yeah, that's it.
There's
devastating.
no health and safety in those days. Didn't matter if it wrapped your knuckles or.
Oh, this is really interesting because I've seen quite a few of the pieces on the
is
new
that-
Handsworth
is that-
art
oh, it
trail,
looks
but I
like
a
haven't
birch
seen this
tree,
one. It
Yeah,
looks
silver
amazing.
birch also.
Silver birch, isn't it?
So
I think it's
there's some new trees that are planted here. So they've been quite recently planted, you can see.
Yeah.
And then this art piece that went up. Shall we go up to have a look at it?
That is definitely inspired by silver birch, isn't it? Because it just looks
Yeah.
like one.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Do you know who the artist is?
I don't, but I'd like to know more about the Handsworth Art Trail. So I encourage people to come out.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can connect to green spaces through art,
Yeah.
and follow the trail and learn about the pieces and the artists in the park. So there is a website, and I'm sure we can link it to the Handsworth Art Trail in this video comment section as well.
But look at that!
That
It's
is
like
gorgeous.
it's all different. You know, so there's like a horse chestnut. There's an ash.
Maybe it's showing all the different varieties
Yeah.
in the park.
I think there's all different artists because I know Pauline Bailey did one piece.
That's absolutely
But this
gorgeous.
isn't Pauline. But isn't that amazing? I mean, it might just be some like wood from, you know, that's fallen from the park. It's just wonderful.
It really is gorgeous.
But What a great addition to the park.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Fabulous design, whoever the artist is, we'll look it up. Great work.
Oh, I think that's the plaque.
Is there a plaque? Yeah, there's a plaque. So there you go, Rachel, you learned about a new art piece.
But this is exactly what I'm saying. That this is what I love, that every time you come out, when you come for a walk, as long as you haven't got the pressure of time, you can always sort of go somewhere and you... Is this Pauline Bailey?
It's Pauline Bailey and Jan Kimber.
Okay.
So this.
Roots and Branches, Handsworth Park Art Trail. Let me just get that for the viewers. And then if you pause it on that video, you can read it all there.
Ah. So is this one, because there's Tim Tolkien, who's Tolkien's son.
Not a form of oak branches, sorry.
But he did the, on Castle Vale, the Spitfire Island.
Spitfire
Did
Island.
he?
Tim Tolkien.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Because he's like, I'm connected to him on
Wow, I didn't
on
know that.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There he is.
And he
Working away.
and so I said, oh, I'm so excited that you want to connect with me, because every time we go up to Spitfire
Yeah,
Island,
I know we do.
I
I've
say,
said to the kids,
oh,
about
that's
it. Yeah.
Tim Tolkien and he's the son of Tolkien.
Yeah, look, the metal leaves represent the many different trees in the park, reflecting the different cultures and communities. Yeah, it's amazing. So it is just
But I think it's just interesting, just looking around at this, because there are areas that, where the grass is being cut, and then there's some areas where it's been left to go wild. And okay, you can sort of say, well, it's a shame that, it's not, there isn't the sort of the money to sort of maintain the parks in the way that they used to be maintained. But then, I think Victorians sort of thought you could control nature and everything was sort of there to be, sort of turned to the will of, sort of human beings. But now we sort of understand that we've got to work with nature.
Yeah.
So this is, leaving
It's just
areas
lovely.
of sort of to go wild. I think that's better, that's sort of more appropriate and more in keeping with,
It's like
sort of a
people
more
now,
environmental
I don't know,
message.
on was it on Gardeners World, where I seen where instead of mowing the whole of your lawn, what they're encouraging people to do is leave some areas of your lawn wild, so it encourages wildlife to come into your garden, and also so you have this like wild meadow, and then just cut round it. So it's a really different way of looking at it. And I did think, I wonder if I would be as bold to do that, because then you just leave these huge patches just to be natural, do whatever they want to do, whatever what's happening, it's happening. But it's an interesting way to look at it. But it also for climate change and ecology, and like just trying to encourage.
So one of the things that the Active Wellbeing Society are doing is trying to encourage people to take over green commons and spaces that are not used, and turn them into a community space for the well-being. Get some planters in there, grow some produce in there, let the children play. Typically no ball signs, remove the ball signs, so children can play ball sports and all sorts of things. So it's a great project, and we're working with our Wild Active Communities Goes Wild department to create these green little pockets. So if you have viewers are watching this, any other spaces in Handsworth that you think that could be turned into a wild common, a wild space where we can grow flowers, grow produce, let us know. Put it in the comments. We'll come out and we'll help you. We'll help the community, create a vision of their own there. So
What was that place that just along from when you come out of Soho and as if we're walking on the Fusion on the right hand side?
Oh,
Richmond.
Is it Richmond Park?
Where the I don't know, a school they're
There's like
taking
a
over to.
totem. There's a totem pole.
Yeah, there's just some land and stuff. And didn't you say the Hive was working there? Was it the Hive?
Yeah. So I think it's Richmond Park or Richmond Gardens, I think. So it was like an area that I think, like way before, I was first at Soho. I think it was turned into these nice little gardens, and then it was abandoned, and then it's still owned by Birmingham City Council, and then it was leased to the Hive, Ruskin College, and they were working with their students there.
So we're just going to stop to see what is the bird. Can you see it?
He's calling. Can you see him right there? Right here.
I can't see it. Oh yes.
Right here. He didn't jump on my head, but can you see him? No. Can you see him right there?
I can see the squirrel.
Yeah, that's him. That's the one that's making a noise.
The squirrel's making a noise.
Look, he's moving. His whole little body's shaking.
It sounds like a bird. I didn't know that.
I didn't know
squirrels made that
noise. See, we've learnt something new. Taz, do you know about squirrels?
No, first time I've heard that noise of that.
Before. I thought you thought it was a bird. Yeah. And then I seen he was little face just.
I thought it was like the squirrel was lip syncing.
So we're coming up to the infamous hill when we do a Handsworth Park 10k run here. This is not the part that we look forward to, but once we get to the top of the hill we feel like Rocky, you know, like doing the steps and the dance at the top. So unfortunately,
do that, don't you?
yeah, and unfortunately we haven't had the event this year because of COVID, but we've done things virtually now. So the event normally takes place around this kind of time, so September the 10th I think it was last year. So we've asked people to do the event online and fundraise for the British Heart Foundation, which is a great cause. So that's the Handsworth Park 10k that takes place every year, and thanks to the community that come out and support it, and a great cause for raising money for Heart Foundation as well, British Heart Foundation.
Taz, do you do still outdoor running or exercise in the park?
Unfortunately not now because of COVID, but we're looking to trial out these social bubbles of 6 people, and family bubbles, so fingers crossed that we can
what would you do
continue.
With them?
It'd be like a booking system. People can come out for a walk, but they have to book in for a slot. So we got track and trace, and then maybe stagger the start time so more people can join us. So yeah, we're just trialing some methods now and hopefully put them into practice soon.
So if you're watching this, you won't get the sense.
No, but
yeah, the heart rate.
My legs are burning.
My heart rate has just gone up high.
Yes.
It's a good little workout though.
I need to get that one.
Oh yeah, you got one.
Yes, finally.
Take that one home. Put it in the vinegar or the pot or whatever we used to do. So what's this side of the park?
Yeah.
So what's the relevance to this bridge here as well, crossing the line?
So this is actually a railway line. So
yeah, if I show the viewers, can you see that over there?
Catch my breath.
That's the railway line. So the park is quite unique because there's a railway line that cuts through the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I'll show you the other side.
But there used to be like a station.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, nowadays, you know, some people, I hope that it's changing now, but some people have quite a negative perception about Handsworth, and, you know, especially if you don't know Handsworth, then you might have heard of Handsworth riots. And and this is part of what we're trying to do, is sort of address these negative perceptions. But what Handsworth was, as it began to grow, was really like the place to be. Very, very fashionable. You know, particularly after Matthew Bolton and James Watt and, you know, the Lunar Society. It's been described in the past as, you know, like the area was like the Silicon Valley of the 18th century. This was the place that you wanted to come. Even if you weren't working at Soho, then, you know, just that association of like being in the Handsworth area was amazing. And that really sort of was one of the things that drove the growth of Handsworth. So that's why you have such beautiful houses around Handsworth, because there were so many wealthy people living here. And so if you didn't want to, I think it was like the Sutton coalfield of the 18th and 19th century, wasn't it? So if you didn't want to be, you know, in the middle of Birmingham and the sort of the smoke and the dirt of, you know, the town centre, then Handsworth was just sort of further enough away where, you know, it was a very pleasant area, but then also close enough that you could sort of access it. And also, you know, sort of having a railway station meant that it was even sort of more convenient for sort of commuting to other places. So the earlier part of the park is this side, and then this side over here, this came on board a few years later. And so we can just sort of walk down the hill a bit, just to sort of point out, because we're not going to go.
Was the public baths this way?
Public baths
Or was
over
it
that
way?
side, yeah.
Where was it when we went? Have we already gone past it?
It was like, I think it was like Grove Lane, so that's Grove Lane, that road.
So that
there,
entrance, so that it must have been, because people had to cut, a lot of people cut through the park
Okay.
to go to the public baths, but I didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
So it was over that side.
So the public baths were just here. See Hinstock Road here, this road that goes, and then in the corner it meets Grove Lane. Just on the corner there is the old public baths that I used to remember going to swimming lessons and so forth. But then they built the Handsworth Leisure Centre after that in the 80s or early 90s.
Oh, so the leisure centre is where the public baths was?
No.
No.
The site's on the corner of Hinstock Road and Grove Lane.
I said, okay.
And it's still there. It's still there.
Is it?
As
Oh,
I think
I'll have to have a
I heard that they might be opening up the public baths again there.
Really?
So how amazing that would be.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow. So, yeah, just to say that, so you can see the
allotments are
over
here.
there. So we're not going to walk through.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I can see the flags are flying proud as well.
I haven't actually been in there, but like somebody's told me that like Vanley's got an allotment there. It's supposed to be absolutely incredible. Yeah. So
they do look incredible.
I'd love to go and do that. I've done videos at Dad's Lane allotment and over at another allotments. I've forgotten the name of them now, but Billsley Lane allotments, and they were absolutely beautiful, hidden gems, green lungs for that community, whether they're private ones or public ones. And it's something that people can get involved, especially during COVID. Keep your social distance, do some planting, do some gardening.
My grandparents used to, my granddad used to have an allotment, and at that time it wasn't, I think it has become a bit fashionable even for people that, you know, to have an allotment. I'm saying just also because of what's happening with the climate. But it's fantastic. But they used to do it as a hobby, didn't they? Somewhere to go and just relax.
It's great. It's great for your mental well-being and physical well-being if you're doing planting and looking after an allotment space.
So we'll just sort of like finish down here. Just want to sort of walk down to the point where we can see the church. And then just down the hill you can see the boathouse and the boating lake. And so. Not really.
Was there always a boating lake here?
Well, as long as there has been...
Wasn't this an addition? Wasn't this a later addition to the park?
Well, it was like, I think there was always like a water feature. Carol talks about, you know, like there used to be sort of like a building somewhere on, I don't know. But like I say, there has always been like a natural water source. But I mean, if you look at old maps, I'm sure that this... you know, there was an area of water here.
Right, I was just going to say, was this where the suffragettes burnt the boats?
I don't think this is the original building, but there was, you know, sort of part of the campaign, the direct action, the suffragettes campaigning for votes for women in the early 20th century. One of the things that happened was they actually sort of burnt a boathouse in Handsworth Park. But like I say...
And that would have been here?
Yeah.
This one here?
I don't know if this is the actual original building.
No, but it would have been around here somewhere.
So, I don't know if we're going to sort of be able to see it, but you can see, this is beautiful boating lake. Just across there is St Mary's, which is the oldest building still up and in use in Handsworth.
It's just been restored, hasn't it? Has
St
it
Mary's.
just been restored?
Yeah, it had quite a lot of work done to it. So, because all the trees are in leaf, you can't really sort of see it.
Just through the gap I can see it there.
You can see
Maybe
it.
I can just zoom in with the camera to show. And those who haven't been to St Mary's, do come and see it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's hidden there, but when you get closer you'll be able to see it more.
And it's where the founding fathers of the Industrial Revolution are buried.
Yeah.
So it's where, and also, so Matthew Bolton, James Watt, and also Aston Villa.
Yeah, William McGregor.
Yeah.
That white gravestone there, that's
Just
William
there.
McGregor's.
Oh yeah.
For any Villa fans.
Yeah, but I
there.
mean, for Football League fans, because he
Yeah.
was like one of the founders
Yeah.
of Football League.
And which, I know this is irrelevant to the park, but wasn't it wasn't he related? His history wasn't it related to one of the pubs on Losells Road, like in the sense?
I don't
Was
know.
it which is the pub that just alongside from Baruch's coffee shop, and it's there?
What, the observatory?
Yeah, I'm sure one of the pubs was the first ever pub and it was founded by McGregor.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and
Maybe
it was-
some of our viewers can put it in the comment
Yeah,
section when they
please,
watch
if you
it.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, Carmi won't be able to sleep tonight.
I just want you to know because there was something about a lot of people used to use that as a place. There's some kind of significant history. I'll have to
Oh,
look
okay.
into it. Yeah.
Well, I think, like if we finish, because we've been well over an hour now,
Yeah.
but just to sort of say, there's another wonderful piece from the
Yes,
New Handsworth.
so there's journey there right ahead, and a local person who's representing the boat there. I've read it, I've been past it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know, because everybody knows Mr. Handsworth.
Yes.
I think it's just Hector Pinkney. He's Hector Pinkney MBE, but he's just amazing.
Yeah.
He's just like a real sort of advocate for the Handsworth area, so he fairly recently retired. He used to work in the library, but still is sort of very, very active. We did a local history study day last November, and he just came in, doesn't work there
Random,
anymore,
yeah.
just came in and sort of like was
He
sharing his
enhanced our
stories.
session
Yeah.
by tenfold. Because he was like a local celebrity, isn't he?
Oh, he is.
So
Yeah.
everyone was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
So so that's like a little bit
Yeah.
about just sort of focusing on Handsworth Park. So you can see, why, like just this is over an hour just talking about bits about the park.
And we haven't even covered all the parts, so we could carry on
Yeah.
to that side because there's a lovely view for golden hour Instagrammers. The little pagoda there, that's there.
Yeah.
I mean, people go there and take pictures of themselves,
Yeah.
and it's quite popular for golden hour apparently for the youngsters on Instagram.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I mean, that's it. We've talked quite a lot about the new, like, sort of monuments, the art trail, but there's a lot of sort of older. I mean, we talked about the bandstand, but there's the umbrella. There's various different
Yeah.
things that, sort of so much to discover. So
Yeah, so maybe we can join Rachel and Carmi on another virtual well-being walk as the train passes through, and we can cover parts of the park that we didn't cover today. So those who are watching this video, please do let us have your feedback, and please join me in thanking we've got Rachel and Carmi from Legacy West Midlands, the great work that they're doing. Go and see on their website. What's the website and what's the Facebook page for our viewers? LegacyWM.com or .co.uk.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put it in the links here as well.
Yeah, thanks.
And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come and visit, and also to do a live video for our viewers. As you know, because of COVID, we can't all be out doing activities, but we can do them in a safe way, in a socially distanced way, and limit to our numbers. So maybe we can do a walk for our social bubble or our family bubble of 6 or less, if there's a need for it. And please do let us know in the comments, and we can arrange that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Great.
So
Thanks very much.
thank you. I'm just going to finish off with that lovely view again of the lake here, Handsworth Park, and the birds flying,
So
people are
lovely, the
walking,
wildlife as
lovely
well, it's
wildlife, the
beautiful.
ducks, the geese. Come and check it out. I love it. It's my home. It's always going to be my home, and you know, I'm very, very proud of Handsworth Park. Thank you, ladies. Take care. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye bye.
Bye.